Good evening. I would like to call to order the school board meeting dated February 22nd, 2022. As this meeting commences, please be advised that it's unlawful for any person to knowingly disrupt or interfere with the administration or functions of any school board or activity on school board property. It is the expectation that every person present or who enters this assembly will conduct themselves with civility, courtesy, and restraint. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the district policies and procedures as they relate to order and decorum. Disruptive behavior and actions are counterproductive to the advancement of pertinent district business. Therefore, each individual is warned that failure to conduct oneself with civility and propriety will result in removal. We thank you in advance for everyone's adherence and cooperation. Ms. Kraus.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to share a poem by Jack Ellison, Through Children's Eyes. A look at the world through children's eyes opens a bright new scene. Some things that reach a boiling point turn out to be nothing but steam. Kids have a way of looking at things. We can learn from these little guys. Don't ever take life too seriously, friends. You won't get out of it alive. Laugh at the world, it's just a game. One with the most marbles wins. What can you buy with a bunch of marbles? Maybe a bottle of grins. A look at the world through children's eyes, and all of a sudden you're free. Free to go around talking to birds, to climb all those big old trees. Life was really so much simpler back then. In the morning, you went out to play. Winter or summer, it made no difference. That's how you would spend your day. A look at the world through children's eyes opens a bright new scene. Some things that reach a boiling point turn out to be nothing but steam. And if you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please let the record reflect that all school board members, superintendent, board clerk, and are in attendance in person, and board attorney is attending via WebEx. Superintendent, do we have any acknowledgements? Oh, sorry. Board clerk, do we have any acknowledgements? Superintendent, do we have any agenda modifications?
Yes, the addendum for good cause is marked on our electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item. I am pulling 6N, Geneva Elementary School Concretable Relocation Project.
Board members, our roll call for tonight is Member Almond, Member Calderon, Vice Chair Sanchez, Member Kraus, and then myself. Member Almond, any agenda modifications?
No modifications, thank you.
Member Calderon?
No modifications, thank you.
Vice Chairman Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Member Kraus?
No modifications, thanks.
And I have no agenda modifications. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposition, say aye. Motion carries. We have a number of presentations.
Yes, we'll get started with our Veteran of the Month, Dr. Gard Harold, please.
Good evening, school board members and superintendent. It is my honor to recognize our Veteran of the Month, Mr. Jeff Dudukovich. Mr. Dudukovich, calm down, Jeff. Mr. Dudukovich served nearly 12 years in the United States Navy. He was selected for the Navy's elite nuclear power program in 1987, attending boot camp, nuclear field A school, and nuclear power school at the Naval Training Center in Orlando, Florida, and nuclear prototype training in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Upon graduation, he was assigned to the nuclear power guided missile cruiser USS Virginia, CGN-38, based out of Norfolk, Virginia. Mr. Dudukovich served 3 years on board Virginia as an engine room supervisor and nuclear quality assurance inspector. During his tour, the Virginia was called into action during the first Gulf War, participating in Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and Provide Comfort. After his tour on the Virginia, Mr. Dudukovich received orders to the nuclear power aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, not the one you all know, where he advanced to the rank of Petty Officer First Class and served as an engine room supervisor and nuclear quality assurance supervisor, inspecting shipyard and ship forces maintenance on all mechanical repairs associated with the ship's 8 nuclear reactors during a complex nuclear refueling overhaul. He also founded and played second base for the Enterprise Mariners baseball team, leading them to the Virginia League State Championship with a 39-4 record in his first year. His success in coaching was rewarded when he was asked to organize an all-Navy traveling baseball team and represented Naval Base Norfolk. He was awarded the Navy Achievement Medal for his service on board Enterprise. After Enterprise completed her 4-year complex refueling overhaul, Mr. Dudukovich reenlisted and received orders to report to Navy Recruiting District, Miami, Florida, as the Nuclear and Advanced Programs Recruiter. He's a busy man. It was at NRD Miami where he developed a strong love of teaching. His responsibilities included presenting nuclear physics seminars to high school chemistry and physics students from South Florida to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and recruiting highly qualified men and women for the program. During his 4-year tour of recruiting duty, Mr. Dudukovich presented over 700 nuclear power seminars to over 18,000 students. He recruited 385 men and women to the nuclear power program and was consistently ranked as a top recruiter nationally. For his efforts, Mr. Dudukovich was awarded 2 Navy Achievement Medals, 6 gold wreaths for recruiting excellence, and was named as NRD's Miami Sailor of the Year. Mr. Dudukovich continued his love for teaching by serving as a high school teacher for 5 years, as an elementary science coach for 2 years, and as a middle school science teacher for 5.5 years, before becoming Seminole County Public Schools' first physics bus teacher in January 2020. Here comes the shameless promo, Jeff. The physics bus program now consists of the mechanics and optics bus, and over 5,000 students and teachers visited the bus during the 2020-21 school year. With the hard work of his team, consisting of project manager Faith Whittingham, fellow physics bus teacher and creative talent Aaron Thude, and assistants Mike Medlock and Richard Gregg, all of whom are here this evening. The third and final physics bus, the electricity and magnetism bus, is due to launch this spring. Together, the physics buses will provide equal access, equal opportunities, and equal experiences for over 10,000 4th and 5th grade students each year. Joined here tonight is Jeff's girlfriend, Grace, as well as his entire physics bus crew. Congratulations and thank you to Petty Officer Dudukovich for your service.
All right, good evening, Superintendent Beeman and board members. We are here tonight. I am here to celebrate our state champions from the fall sports that competed back in the fall, and we wish we could have gotten you sooner, but we are glad to share with you tonight those great athletes that we have in Seminole County. As you guys know, we are very blessed with our athletic programs in Seminole County, and it's great to be able to recognize you athletes who have just gone above and beyond to win a state championship. That does not happen very often in many counties, and there's only a handful of students that get this recognition across the state, and you guys are here tonight to be recognized. So I want to start off with recognizing from Winter Springs High School, cross-country state champion Caroline Wells. And as she's shaking hands and taking pictures here, I'm going to read a little bit about Caroline. She is an undefeated Florida State champion, winning two, not just one, two back-to-back individual titles. And not only does she win, but she beat the second place runner in both years by over a full minute. Caroline hasn't lost a single race at any distance on Florida soil since her sophomore year. She's a two-time state champion, a state record holder, a recipient of the Gatorade Awards Cross Country Athlete of the Year. She competed her senior season of cross country by qualifying at the Foot Locker Finals in San Diego, California, where she became an All-American, and she will continue her running this fall at Stanford University. Congratulations, Caroline. And we are going to move into swimming now. We'll first start with our ladies at Oviedo High School. Welcome Kaylin Herbert and Gabrielle Goodwin. As they come forward, Kaylin is a junior at Oviedo High School, and Kaylin won the 100 freestyle at the state championships, posting a 50.69 and breaking the school record in the process. She is committed to swimming at Miami of Ohio. And junior Gabby Goodwin was a state champ in the 500 freestyle with a 450 and also breaking the school record, and she is committed to swim at Florida State University. Congratulations. And for our boys teams from Seminole High School, would you welcome Dawson Joyce. Dawson won the 50 freestyle and the 100 freestyle events at the 4A state meet this past November, culminating an incredible 4-year swimming career at Seminole High School that ranks as one of the greatest individual runs in FHSAA swimming history. His double victory at the state meet this year, combined with his 6 previous individual titles and 4 state championship relays, give him a total of 12 state titles over his 4 years. This also includes a 4-peat in each of the 2 sprint freestyle events, something that hasn't been done in over a half century. You're not done, bud. You're not done. Come on. And a record that can only be tied but never broken. He is arguably the greatest winner in the history of high school swimming in the modern era. Dawson is a 13-time NISCA High School All-American and a 2-time winner of the Florida Dairy Farmers Mr. Swimming Award, given to the best high school swimmer in the state of Florida. Congratulations, Dawson. So from Lake Brantley High School, we have our swimmers, Seth Bassinger, Darren Dieter, Ashton Kristalik, and Sage Sungale. Come on up. And the Lake Brantley swim team, they finished 5th at the state championships this year, led by their state championship relay team. This is the 200-meter relay team here, comprised of the individual you see before you. And I would also like to recognize that coming as a runner-up this year, Sage is up here already, but we want to recognize him as well for getting a second-place runner-up finish in the 100 freestyle. And this marks Sage's 3rd state championship in 3 years of swimming at Lake Brantley. Over the last 4 years, Sage has set a new team record in 8 of 12 events, making him the most prolific performer in Lake Brantley swimming history. He will attend SMU in Dallas, Texas on a swimming scholarship, where he will become part of one of the most up-and-coming Division I swimming programs in the nation. Congratulations to the swim teams from Lake Brantley High School. And I apologize, I left off some of the most important people leading these great teams. Coach Clay Parnell, where are you, Coach? I know you were in the house. Let's recognize him. Thank you. And was Charlie Rose able to make it from Oviedo? Did he make it earlier? He is? Good. and Tony Ackerson from Seminole High School. All right, and we have one more group from Oviedo High School. I'd like to welcome Andrew Christensen, Ryan Walker, Luca Oliva, and Ryan Reynolds from the swim team also. All right, so the boys 400 relay went 3 minutes and 6 seconds, .59. They broke the school record and finished off the last event as state champs. Andrew Christensen, a senior, has committed to swim at Penn State University. Ryan Reynolds, a senior, is still undecided but looking at FSU and Georgia. Ryan Walker is a sophomore, and Luca Oliva is a junior who is still undecided but looking at the U.S. Naval Academy, Northeastern, or Yale. The boys team has gone 4 years undefeated in dual meet, invitational, district, and regional competitions. Congratulations, Oviedo High School. And again, Coach Charlie Rose, congratulations to you. Oviedo High School Principal, Dr. Daniel is in attendance as well. Thank you guys. Lake Brantley High School's Principal, Mr. Brian Blazewitz. I think that's it. Is that everybody? We're good? All right. Congratulations, you guys. Very, very special and great performances.
Good evening. I'm here to recognize our state champions of donations. I'm Jean Van Smith, Executive Director of the Foundation, and very excited to welcome our partner, Addition Financial Credit Union. Addition Financial operates a debit card program where each time you swipe your debit card, they donate 3 cents back to support students in Seminole County Public Schools. These go to support our senior scholarship programs, teacher resource store, classroom mini grants, and mentoring programs. Those pennies do add up, and this year they'll be presenting us with a check for $19,533. If you can come on up, we're welcoming and thanking Kevin Miller, President and CEO of Addition Financial, Lynn Dang, Chief Development Officer, and Holton Mills, our Partnership Specialist. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll get a quick photo.
Good afternoon or good evening, Ms. Beeman, Madam Chair, and board members. We appreciate this opportunity to go over our mental health overview and student support services. My name is Michelle Walsh, and I'm part of the Student Support Services Intervention Team. Partnership is crucial in helping students. It's going to take the partnership of the school, the district, intervention team, as well as the home. And with that, we maximize all opportunities to support our students the best we can. Now, a member or two once mentioned that they weren't able to find all of the resources available, and I wanted to take a moment just to share where some of the resources are and how a parent can get to them. So see the magnifying glass up there? If you just type in mental health, it would take you right to the mental health page and the resources. But if you don't want to do that, you can click on district, scroll down to the bottom where the Student Support Services tab is, click there, and we have a menu of items in the Student Support Services Department, and mental health is one of them. And the parent can go ahead and view these things to look for if they're concerned about their student's mental health. There's other items on that page as well. They also outline the student support services, beginning with the school counselors, on down social workers, school psychologists, and the district mental health counselors. We also provide a copy of our tiered continuum of mental health supports and our district mental health plan that was approved by our board. The local resources are available. We have wraparound services within the district. There's information about 211. There's information about the Seminole Children's Cabinet. We have a member of our board sitting on that cabinet working with the teams to speak about all of the different resources that we have available. One other resource that's available that directly links to Speak Out Hotline is our P3 Campus app. And if you've ever gone on that, it's very interesting, user-friendly, easy to use, and it really is something that goes right to the Sheriff's Department. Double-checked with Kelly Martin, Lieutenant Martin, and she had said that they receive all kinds of tips all the time, every day. We also provide to you and the public a copy of our Seminole County mental health plan. Just a brief review about what the intervention team comprises of. Of course, we have the 130 school counselors provide the Tier 1 and Tier 2 support for students, but we also have 38 school psychologists, 42 social workers, and our 21 district mental health counselors. I'm going to turn this over to our lead school psychologist, program specialist.
Hi, so I'm Jen Johnson. I'm our program specialist for school psychology.
Do you mind pulling, I'm sorry, can you pull the microphone a little closer so that this way everybody can hear you too? Well, perfect, thank you.
Is that a little better?
Yes, much, thank you.
So as Dr. Walsh said, we have 38 school psychologists. So I would say a couple of our psychologists do work in specialized roles. So that could be at our pre-K disabilities clinic or on our behavior and curriculum support team. But in general terms, our psychologists do support in a traditional role, meaning they're assigned to schools, and each of our psychologists have about 2 schools apiece that they. So when we're talking about the roles and responsibilities of our school psychologists, I think the first thing that really comes to mind is our involvement in evaluating students who are suspected of having disabilities. And so this slide right here just kind of highlights the role or the exceptionalities that our school psychologists probably have the most in-depth role, okay, where we're the primary evaluator. These categories listed above, some of these evaluations might take, 2 to 3 hours if we're talking about a student who's suspected as potentially being gifted. However, they could be 2 days, 3 days, up to several weeks, just depending on the nature of the evaluation. So they can be very comprehensive depending on what is needed. And I do want to note that these evaluations are only what takes place after obtaining parental consent. If we break it down a little more about the types of evaluations and assessments that these evaluations might look like, we have all these different assessments that our team will conduct. When we're talking about achievement, we're drilling down into specific academic deficits so we can plan intervention. Intellectual cognitive, this could be just a general intellectual assessment of cognition, or it could be just looking at a student's strengths and weaknesses so we know how to accommodate them best. Our social and emotional and behavioral evaluations, it's a pretty broad term. So, but in general, we're really looking at getting and gathering information from a variety of sources, from parents. We interview students when appropriate, teachers, and we're really looking at getting this information that we can look at collectively when we're planning for students, okay, and sometimes identifying underlying mental health needs. Adaptive functioning looks at the student's independent functioning. Social developmental histories, we're interviewing parents, really looking at some maybe background information about the student that is helpful in deciding what supports are necessary. And then our functional behavior assessments, we spend a lot of time, our team, conducting these assessments. This is really looking at if a behavior is occurring in that educational setting, getting to that root or the why, the function of the behavior, so we can actually plan an intervention appropriately. So, outside of that general evaluator role, though, we do have a lot of other hats that we wear, and we provide supports for positive behavior and mental health for all students, okay? So this is our general education students as well as our ESE students. You can see your psychologists in the classrooms doing evaluations, or not evaluations, excuse me, observations on students so they can consult appropriately with other staff. We've talked about the functional behavior assessments and behavior plans already. Skill building groups, this is something that we do a lot of, so we're using curriculums like zones of regulation, harmony, otherwise known, it used to be Sanford Harmony, overcoming obstacles, but basically teaching those lagging skills, so coping skills, self-regulation, conflict resolution, so we're working individually with students or in groups, focusing on those skills. It can lead to individual or group counseling, school connectedness, so a lot of our psychologists are serving as mentors. They're doing check and connects, okay, at their schools, and PBIS, many of us are part of that team at their schools. Additionally, data analysis, progress monitoring, our psychologists are looking to work collaboratively, so with our student support services team, our social workers, our district mental health counselors, as well as our school-based teams, and really being able to drill down, find those at-risk students, across that MTSS framework. And then, of course, using all of that information kind of collectively to make sure that we're making the recommendations to best meet their individual needs. We do a lot of trainings. Some ones to highlight, our Behavior 101 training, so we're really looking at teaching teachers some skills regarding prevention of behavior and de-escalation techniques that they can use in the classroom setting. UCARU is something that we've rolled out just over the last 2 years, which is a trauma-informed care and universal kind of precautions training that we provide to our staff as well. And then just to give you an idea of some numbers, okay, so this is where we're at probably around the end of January. So you can see we do a lot of evaluations, those comprehensive evaluations as well as gifted, but the behavior supports is where we are responding to behavior needs in the classroom, as well as the intervention, the skills groups that I was talking about, and then our staff trainings that we're providing at the school level.
Good evening. My name is Asia Smith. I am the lead school social worker for the School Social Work Division for our district. As school social workers, we provide an array of supportive services to our students, families, and school staff. We advocate for our students' emotional, mental, and physical well-being by bridging the school, home, and community to help increase the academic success of all of our students. On average, our school social workers hold a caseload of 41 students, providing ongoing formal supportive services in the form of educational counseling, mental health counseling, and formal interventions. School social workers provide both targeted social skill lessons in both individual and group settings, educational counseling for general educational students as well as students with disabilities, and direct student support in the classroom setting, such as ESE classroom during the social personal lessons and in school suspension classrooms. For students who are in need of mental health support, school social workers also provide in-depth mental health counseling through parent and legal guardian consent. Right now, we have several licensed clinical social workers that are in our division, and that number continues to increase. And we are also have been able, so far this school year, been able to support over 500 students in this domain. And within our intervention supportive services, we've been able to support over 1,200 students so far this school year. A significant portion of our role is assisting students who have attendance challenges, and providing early interventions is a priority for those that meet the 5 unexcused absences within a 30-day period threshold in order to ensure that that number does not continue to increase. We work to identify barriers, assess the needs of our students and families, and then create a plan of support for these students. Currently, there are about 69 students that are being seen in circuit court for truancy, receiving intensive supportive services among multiple agencies, including our district, Seminole County Sheriff's Truancy Center and Youth Intervention Services, as well as Children's Home Society. School Social Work Division, as well as our Families in Need program, have worked with schools to identify over 1,600 students who are homeless and in need of basic need support and resources. Among those 1,600 students, there are 200 students who are identified as unaccompanied homeless youth. These students who do not have an identified parent or legal guardian at the time of being identified, and make them one of the most vulnerable populations within our district needing the most intensive care. As stated in the previous slide, amongst our school social work division, there's also the Families in Need program. This program offers intensive supports to students experiencing homelessness, so that 1,600 number, but it also includes our students that are in foster care and those that are economically disadvantaged, which make up half of the student body population in our district at this time. These supportive services can consist of case management, case support, as well as emergency financial services to reduce the barriers that are present in order for them to attend school on a regular basis. And just as every child is unique, so is every school campus. School social workers collect and analyze as much data as possible to have a holistic overview of a student to create an individualized plan of support. We collaborate with school faculty and staff by modeling intervention strategies, offering professional development, and providing extensive community outreach, including multiple home visits across our district.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Palmer. I'm the Mental Health Program Specialist, and I want to just say thank you for allowing us to come and talk about mental health. I know it's been a topic of conversation a lot as we try to get back to normalcy. So the district mental health counselors function as the mental health expert on every school campus. So they do a lot of targeted interventions. The vast majority of their services are direct care mental health counseling to the students that are identified in need. We also, depending on the most appropriate avenue for support, will do referrals to outside agencies and linking families with additional supports. And we do a lot of crisis intervention, safety planning, helping families have a warm handoff between the time that a need is identified at the school and making sure that they get involved with a provider, either with us personally or with an outside support. We also do a lot of targeted trainings for campuses and staff. So if there's a specific trend or a specific type of behavior that we're seeing a pattern of at a certain school campus, we'll work with them in identifying some supports and collaborating with the social workers and school psychologists to kind of support those students and create interventions that are kind of creative and individualized. This is the district mental health team data. Currently, we're working with 805 students. Our services do require parental consent. One of the things that we do is if a parent declines or is unable to consent to services, we will support the student in other ways by providing suggestions and support to the teachers and administrators that are working with those students. Currently, we've done 7,514 sessions. As you can see, over 300 of those sessions are virtual. In addition to the in-person sessions that we're doing, we're also continuing to accommodate students that are off campus due to COVID or off campus due to other illnesses. We also have done virtual sessions for students outside of school hours to accommodate demanding schedules. As you can see, we've also done quite a few crisis interventions and Baker Acts. One of the things that I like to outline is that the mental health team does not perform the Baker Acts themselves, but we do assist law enforcement, the school resource officer and school resource deputy in that warm handoff. Another thing that I'd like to highlight is the parent contacts. One of the things that we know as a mental health team is that students are often not just in need at school. So we really have tried to do a lot of targeted outreach to families, hear parents out, make sure that they feel supported at home, provide them with suggestions and interventions so that we can provide more of like a wraparound service and students can get the support that they need. One of the questions we get a lot of is how do we determine the best level of care? How do we determine, which avenue we take to, provide support to a student? So I wanted to just kind of provide some clarification on that. We do kind of like a treatment planning process where we look at intensity, frequency, and duration. So how intense are the student's symptoms on a scale of 1 to 10? How frequent are those symptoms occurring, once a week versus 7 days a week? And when those symptoms are occurring, how long do they occur? Is it a 5-minute episode? Is it an hour-long episode? So those are some of the factors that we take into consideration when we're determining, should it go to the social worker, the district mental health counselor, an outside provider, et cetera. This is the Seminole County Public Schools mental health framework. I know that most people have seen this. The thing that I'd like to highlight is in that top category for few, one of the things that we try to do a lot of is ensure that no student is falling through the cracks. So if there's a student that we identify as being in need, we're trying to do a warm handoff as much as possible. We also have heard the call for parent support. Last year, we rolled out a parent mental health web series, and we've been doing parent sessions for our youth mental health first aid training. Because we've experienced such an interest this year, we're rolling those out again this year as well. So these are some virtual training dates that we're offering for youth mental health first aid for parents. We are currently working on getting more dates for summer and fall, as these dates are at capacity currently. Yeah. Which is, amazing. I'm so just amazed that, parents have, heard the call. And then this is our schedule for the Parent Mental Health web series. 9 of 10 sessions are currently at capacity with 125 tickets available. We're working on getting more dates for summer and fall. We want to make sure that parents feel heard and that we're giving them the support that they need. So we're working on that. I know that Dr. Walsh commented on this earlier, but I just wanted to highlight it again, that the P3 Campus tip reporting app is a really fantastic resource. You can report on anything from abuse to mental health and anything and everything in between, and it is extremely user-friendly.
Hi, good to see you all. Amy Elwood, Director of Intervention Services. So how lucky am I to work with these amazing professionals each and every day to provide this wide array of services to our campus. So as you can see from the data, there's an ever-increasing need for support on our campuses. So where do you start to maximize these resources? So we start with very strategic scheduling of our staff on our campuses. Our goal is to have at least one of these providers available on our school sites each and every day, so that every school has at least one psychologist, one district mental health counselor, or one social worker available to them each day, so they have an expert to lean on. So that's where we start. The other thing is we layer our supportive services and wraparound services with a primary focus on educational attainment. We're a school district, we're a school system, so that's where we're going to spend the majority of our work, is in prevention and intervention services. So what we want to do first and foremost is make sure we've removed all barriers, that students are in the right academic placement, that parents have all the support and resources that they need, and that teachers have the resources that they need, so they have a positive and productive learning environment, because our goal is productive citizens at the end of the day. But as you can see from the data, that sometimes those layers are not enough. Some of our students have trauma histories. Some of our students have stressors that need more intensive support. That's when we get involved with the parents and the community to increase those services and supports. Sorry, I've got a little frog in my throat. And so we work to decide where that should best happen. Sometimes that best happens with our providers at school. Sometimes those wounds are too deep, and we need to work to have that happen outside of school hours and just check in on those students at school during the school day, so as not to upset them during the school day, because some wounds are too deep to open at school. So the other thing we want to do is make sure that each school, as Ms. Smith mentioned, all of our schools are unique in nature and makeup, and they have different needs. So we wanted to come up with a way to collect data to see what types of services do schools need. So when we first rolled out the mental health plan, Bob Everland and his amazing team helped us develop a mental health dashboard. So that allowed schools to input mental health referrals to our team for the state reporting that was required. But as we started reading through those mental health referrals, what we realized is that some of them weren't really mental health referrals. Schools were asking for other types of services, those behavioral supports, those classroom supports, all the other needs that this team has talked about today. So we wanted a way to capture that data and allow schools to put in referrals to get the right provider in the right place, in the right setting, at the right time. So we worked last spring and through the summer with Bob and his team to expand that dashboard to be a fully comprehensive intervention services dashboard. It is located in Clever. School teams can put in referrals in a variety of different areas, and we've been doing training and support to help them navigate that. So now schools can pick from mental health, medical, behavioral, basic needs and attendance, and they input that referral. The student demographic data automatically populates. They don't have to handwrite anything, which saves them an amazing amount of time compared to handwriting referrals, which is what schools used to have to do. So that takes that off the counselor's plate. So, and then that referral immediately goes to the provider that it needs to go to, and they get alerted through their email that a referral has been sent to them. So let's talk about who that goes to. So attendance referrals obviously go directly to a social worker, right? So schools have reached out, they've tried to talk to parents, but they've identified there may be a barrier, a need for a home visit, something of that nature. So schools have already put in 547 referrals into the attendance portal, so those go directly to the social worker. Behavior referrals is where we're working most closely with our school teams to train them to differentiate between a behavioral need and a mental health need, because sometimes we need to layer both. So we want to correct those behavioral needs first and then intensify it if necessary to that mental health level. So behavioral referrals go to the social worker and psychologist to case staff together to provide those strategies, supports, tools, social skills, supports to the teachers and students at the same time. So right now, 468 of those referrals have already been put in. Basic needs referrals is pretty self-explanatory. Schools have identified a resource need of a student or family. That goes directly to our school social workers. They then do a comprehensive needs assessment with the family to determine how to meet those needs. Big shout out to the foundation for all of their support and helping us meet those resource needs of our students and families. And then mental health, as Ms. Palmer said, more than 3,100 mental health referrals. Those go to our district mental health counselors and our school social workers to case staff together. So, and determine who will meet that need or if that need will be met in the community with some check-in at school. It does require parent consent for that level of intensity. So as you can see, it's a lot, right? And we want to continue to raise awareness and raise the support level for all of our providers and stakeholders so that they know that all of these supports are available and that they're available to all students in our gen ed population, our ESE population, and our gifted population, because it's needed by all of them. So that's, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please let us know.
I'm just shocked that in such a short period of time, the parents have already sold out the training sessions, and knowing with issues that could be occurring in the home, I'd want to give as much support as I could in a perhaps more timely basis. Is there something that we as a board could do to add more trainings earlier than summer or next fall, or are we at capacity? And I don't know what the other...
We're not necessarily at capacity right now. There is a process we have to apply and make sure that we have every parent registered, keeping in mind that we've been having ongoing parent youth mental health first aid training since we launched youth mental health first aid. So this has been years that we've had it in place.
When was when was the last one on the mental health training that we did on that? One
We
was
did some in the summer. We did not do any in the fall. We had a changing of the guard and some movements. So we do have some things lined up in several of our youth mental health counselors. It's a face-to-face, or it's a 4-hour commitment online for the folks and 2 hours of follow-up. So what we have in place for, we're looking at some different opportunities for our staff members, for them to do some nighttime training and adding a few more of those. We definitely have summer training because we have some staff that are 11-month employees and 12-month employees that can do ongoing training without any cost or overhead for that. And then we have a plan to keep rolling in the fall. Also, Cassie Palmer is going to be doing some podcasts, so we really want to do some online, on-demand, courses and some things for parents so that they don't necessarily have to wait for those sessions, but those sessions can be available to them ongoing. So we have some things that we have planned in order for us to meet those needs. It was interesting, the difference between this time of the year and last time of the year. Cassie did the training last time of the year. We had a cap of 50 tickets and didn't meet all those ticket needs. And so it was one of those things where we said, okay, where are we going to prioritize our commitments and our training? And it really was pushing out more of our teacher and staff training, because they're also doing that as well. And then committing to doing parent and other folks that need assistance. It's interesting, I heard from one of our employees in this building as we were walking in, he said his relatives from Puerto Rico were forwarded our information on youth mental health first aid, and he sees it pinged several different places because it's a platform open to the general population. We don't have a measure of preventing folks that are outside of our district from signing up. We're doing our best to try to meet the needs of everyone we possibly can at this time.
If I can just jump in, one of the things that we heard from a lot of parents last year is, I'm not going to be able to make the session, so will you be posting it later? And we weren't able to figure out the technology for that last year, but I've already worked with our IT department to find a place on our mental health website so that we can record and offer those sessions at a later time to the parents who weren't able to get into the sessions.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from Member Almond?
Just a comment, you do amazing work with limited resources, and you all seem like you're happy enough, and I'm sure there's a good bit of stress in your jobs, so thank you.
Well, we appreciate that. Also, this is the same team that responds to crises all over our district. So whenever I get an email or a call from the superintendent, we deploy these folks out to support the schools, students, and staff. Thank you.
And I, too, want to thank you all for the work that you're doing to keep the focus on education like you have, and supporting all of our students and families. Thank you all.
And I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you presenting today. I know it took a lot of time, and I know I met individually with many of you and talked to you. As you know, this is very dear to my heart, and as everybody needs mental health, and this pandemic has thrown everybody for a loop this past few years. What kind of services are we providing for our faculty, and how can they get the support and services that they need as well?
Well, I'm sure that these ladies can speak to it, but Jen just mentioned UCARU, some training, trauma-informed care. We've got mindfulness. We have other things. You all can speak up to it as well.
Yeah. Do they need to go somewhere? Like, I'm just wondering, how do they need to reach out to, like, I don't know the procedure of what they need to do. Do they reach out to their principal? Do they reach out to you all? Or how does that work? And as well as parents, how do they reach out? Do they reach to the, we have certain protocol. So I want to make sure that everybody's going to the right person for the right thing. I don't want to overwhelm you all.
Okay, so those are two different questions. So
Yes, sorry.
for parents, I would have them reach out to their school counselor or administrator so they can get them in touch with our team, because that's how the referral process begins.
Thank you.
So for our faculty, we really try to build very trusting relationships with all of our staff. We encourage all of our student service providers to introduce themselves and be visible out on their campuses, so that be into classrooms. That's been a big push for our psychologists and social workers this year, is to be in more classrooms on a regular basis. basis so that teachers feel comfortable asking them to come in and model strategies or to be supportive with students that are a challenge that they're not used to, if there's behaviors they're not used to, or classroom management techniques that they just want modeled with them. So as Ms. Smith said, a lot of our social workers are spending time pushing into classrooms instead of pulling out this year, so students aren't missing that instruction and that they're getting that in a natural environment.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. Also, I'm very happy about the podcast. I've been talking about, having that. I would love to have a SCPS radio station one day that we all can go to. The wraparound services are awesome, and I know a lot of people sometimes don't understand the tier system, and so they're listening, and I had mentioned to you all that, I really want everybody to understand what the acronyms mean, like ASD and EBD and all the different things. And is there a place on the website that we have that listed? And then also making sure that the wraparound services, that they understand what a tier means, like all children tier 1, and then tier 2, we start seeing that we might need to have some sort of services and so on and so forth.
So on our website, which I pointed out, we have all those different tabs in there. It outlines all of the exceptionalities, and discusses that. And we also put in our flyers for 211 support, those wraparound services. Our district mental health plan is comprehensive, and it talks at each point what the tier encompasses and entails, and who is eligible for those tiers. So it's all available on our website.
Awesome. Thank you. And this way, everybody that's listening and everybody that's here, please share all the wonderful things that our fabulous student support services and team are doing. We appreciate you all so much. And I know that, we don't say that enough, but thank you. And I know there's a lot of teachers out there, and all of our social workers and guidance counselors and mental health counselors and psychologists, and you all, everybody. Thank you.
It hurts to see our numbers are so high for the need of mental health, and it's not just in Seminole County, it's everywhere. But I believe we have the right team in place to manage it, and I'm thankful for you each and every day. I'm thankful for your crisis management. I'm thankful for how you help us get our students and families through every day. So appreciate you, and thank you. Okay. It's time for board member comments before public comment. Member Almond.
No comments, thank you.
Member Calderon.
No, thank you. I'll do it under committee reports.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Just thanking everybody for everything that they're doing day in and day out, and I'll share the rest later.
Member Kraus.
No comments.
And I have no comments. So Vice Chair Sanchez, would you please read the public comment statement?
Sure. The purpose of the public participation segment of the board meeting is to allow the public to address matters with the board's jurisdiction and not for resolving individual grievances or disputes. Public comments related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcome and encouraged. To maintain orderly conduct, the public comments segment of the meeting may not be used as an open forum to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support or oppose candidates for public office, including presentation of political and/or campaign issues, announcing candidacy and/or campaigning, or to engage in commercial speech, attempting to sell a service or product to the board or to the public. Nor is it a forum to address matters involving disciplinary actions of any kind, pending claims, complaints, or litigations against the district or district personnel. Also, public comment is not a forum to engage in personal attacks against the school system employees or school board members. Statements made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. One designated group representative will have a maximum of 6 minutes. No speaker may yield his or her time to any other person. Substitutions of speakers will not be allowed except in exceptional circumstances as determined by the presiding officer. Speakers shall direct their comments only to the board and may not address the audience or speakers. This policy does not prohibit the board from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a meeting. Thank you.
We have Deborah Donahue, followed by Haley Donahue, and then Zachary Roz.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
My apologies, the TV timer for public comment, we're having technical difficulties not operating this evening, so I'm going to have to go to the podium timer. So as a reminder, when the green light comes on, your time starts. When the yellow light comes on, you have 1 minute left. And when the yellow light goes off, your time is up. And so I will assist you with the timer because I know it's back here hard to see for you. So
Thank you.
I will assist you in that.
Good evening, Board. Thank you very much for letting me speak tonight, and thank you for your decision about brain pop. CRT, curriculum race theory, is a term that we keep hearing being tossed about these days, and I think that there is quite a misconception about it. It's being used incorrectly by people. It's being used to accuse teachers of indoctrination of students. And I just wanted to take a minute to kind of clear that up. CRT is a theoretical framework. It's used by graduate students. It's used in research. It's not being taught in K through 12 schools. It's used in qualitative studies. It looks at systemic racism in studies. It's never been meant to be taught in the K through 12 school system, and it's not being taught. As an educator, I've never taught it. It's not in the Florida standards, and I'm really confused why this keeps coming up as like this buzzword and why teachers are being accused of constantly teaching this, because it's not happening. And I did want to thank you for your stance on continuing with brain pop. Thank you.
Haley Donahue, followed by Zachary Roz, then Kierra Ortiz.
Good evening, School Board. I'm Haley Donahue. 15.9% of people in my generation identify themselves as a member of the LGBTQ+ community. Though that number does not sound like a lot, according to a poll from USA Today, that is around 18 million people. Here in Florida, the World Population Review estimates around 886,000 people as being a part of the LGBTQ+ community. However, a GLSEN 2019 National School Climate Survey demonstrates that Florida schools were not safe for most lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, and other non-cisgender heterosexual students in secondary schools face discrimination. In addition, many LGBTQ+ students in Florida do not have access to important school resources such as an LGBTQ+ inclusive curriculum, and were not protected by supportive and inclusive school policies. One of the reasons for this is the lack of recognition for students who identify as LGBTQ+, both in and out of the classroom. Ways to recognize these students include the acknowledgement of pride, which Orange County Public School District does, but Seminole still hasn't. I don't fault you for this, but I would like that to be up for consideration. This is not me pointing fingers at the school board. I understand that you are under pressure from other groups to not recognize the event, but because it is viewed as not being age appropriate. But I would like to include a few more statistics for you outside of knowing many people my own age who are a part of the LGBTQ+ community. 17% of LGBTQ+ students in Florida have heard homophobic remarks directed at or around them from their teachers. 69% of these students in Florida have been verbally harassed for their sexual orientation. 58% have been verbally harassed for their gender identity. 24 and 22%, respectively, have been physically assaulted because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. 80% of students in Florida schools have heard slurs used against them in their community. 94% of students have heard the word gay used as a derogatory context. One Winter Springs High School senior student shared that athletes get away with harassment and bullying, and the bill, which is called Don't Say Gay, would allow this to continue, and by refusing to recognize pride and refusing to acknowledge other things that promote the awareness and acceptance of LGBTQ+ students in public schools only encourages their behavior. According to the CDC, LGBTQ+ youth are at 4 times the risk of suicide as cisgender heterosexual students. Suicide is the leading cause of death among all youth, with an increased risk for these LGBTQ+ students. The Trevor Project estimates that at least one LGBTQ youth between the ages of 13 and 24 attempt suicide every 45 seconds in the United States.
Ms. Donahue, are you close to finished?
Yes.
Your time is up, so wrap up if you wouldn't mind.
The bill, dubbed Don't Say Gay, has already passed in the Senate and House, and this bill removes protections from many students' lives and students who have gone to their teachers and almost in tears because they don't know if they have anyone else to turn to. And I ask you to please recognize Pride as a school district to remind these students that they still matter to you. Thank you, school board, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good evening, members of the school board and members of the community and Superintendent Beeman. My name is Zach, and I'm a current sophomore at Winter Springs High School. I'm a full-time student, band kid, and pre-IB candidate. I'm also a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community. I'm gay, to put it simply. And once again, me and my fellow members of the Winter Springs Young Dems Club have chosen to speak today in regards to pride in schools and SCPS and upcoming legislation regarding LGBTQ youth in the state of Florida. HB 1557, now nicknamed the Don't Say Gay bill, would mean significant changes for LGBTQ students, but not just in our county, but in America's school system as a whole. This bill, set to be voted in the Florida House later this week, is nothing short of a direct attack on the freedoms of LGBTQ students across the state. A few startling provisions and amendments to the bill include actions such as banning discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in a school environment, and would even require schools to disclose a student's sexual orientation to their guardians within a set period of time. Now, before I elaborate on what this would mean for the state, I would like to share my personal experience as a gay student in Central Florida. I myself am a product of the Seminole County Public Schools, and from VPK all the way to my current year as a sophomore, I've been in SCPS. This school district raised me from the ground up into the student I am today. I came out in 6th grade not knowing what would happen to me and not knowing if people would accept me. I am so fortunate to have loving and supporting parents who supported me every step of the way. My parents loved me unconditionally no matter what, and who I liked didn't change that. In school, I'm also happy to say it wasn't very different. Yeah, it's middle school and kids can be very ignorant, but for me, I've had plenty of positive experiences, and my identity has never played a factor in hindering my success at school. But my point here, if all I came up here to talk about was how it's been good for me, why am I still speaking? Because in the end, my point is this: not everyone is as lucky as me. In fact, it's an unfortunate understatement. According to the Trevor Project, a nonprofit organization who supports LGBTQ youth in the US, these heartbreaking statistics in their 2018 study have shown that 71% of youth in their study have reported experiencing some form of discrimination, including in their education environments. But even more startling is that 39% have even considered committing suicide within the last 12 months of their study. Not everyone is as lucky as me, and I can tell you firsthand as a student that these statistics really do reflect the current climate in our schools. HB 1557, the Don't Say Gay bill, threatens not only the expression of students, but their safety as well. Many LGBTQ students don't have the option to come out to their families, and in doing so can lead to a more toxic or potentially dangerous situation at home. There's no denying the data, and there's no denying what I've seen my fellow teens go through. We are asking for specific action, and we are requesting you to continue one thing: listening to the students of SCPS. We are voicing out the needs to be done and improve all the time, and we ask that change is made. I've had such positive experiences with mental health support, educational support, and my overall experience in school, but it can always be better.
Mr. Ross, are you almost finished?
Almost.
Okay, wrap it up.
Sorry, my point is this: we ask the school board and SCPS to continue to encourage the expansion of gay-straight alliance clubs, which are popping more and more in schools and providing many students with a safe, inclusive, and relatable environment. And we lastly ask you to continue to mandate schools to provide a safe, inclusive, and open learning environment that fosters the growth of intelligence, learning, and self-expression. But please don't let us stop talking about it. The moment we stopped having these conversations and important conversations, so many students across the county and across the nation will lose their voice as LGBTQ youth. So we ask the district, please support our LGBTQ youth who are continuing to change and positively impact learning in our schools, in SCPS, and across the world. Thank you.
We have Kierra Ortiz, Lee Moriera, and then Naomi Flowers.
Hello members of the school board and Superintendent Beeman. My name is Kira and I am a sophomore at Winter Springs High School. I am here to advocate for the recognition of pride in schools. My friend and fellow student Haley spoke to you a minute ago about the statistics of students impacted by legislation that targets their very identity. But to me, the most persuasive evidence comes from the students that the school board vows to protect and educate. Today, I want to share with you a story that moved me in hopes that it moves you as well. School has always felt like a safe space to explore how I feel about attraction. Now, my younger sister is facing homophobia from fellow middle school students and teachers as she tries to explore her identity. I have friends who would not be here today if their teachers didn't allow them to express and discuss their gender identity in class. At the beginning of the year, I got the opportunity to introduce myself to a class that I lead, and one of the most important facts I shared with everyone was that I was bi. Because of that, other students felt comfortable coming to me and confiding in me. And I felt like I had a genuine relationship with them. If these laws passed, however, the teachers that allowed me to share could have been punished for simply allowing me to talk about who I am. School is and has always been a place from home where I can truly explore myself, and if this is taken away, I'm truly scared for what my siblings and their friends will have to deal with as they grow up. This story pushed me to be here today, as I and many others have shared similar feelings of not being comfortable with expressing ourselves at home, and school provided us with an outlet with wonderful teachers who see us, hear us, and give us opportunities to express who we truly are. I understand that school should be challenging, and at times it should make us feel uncomfortable, but it should never feel unsafe. Recognizing pride in schools is not political, it is not performative. Recognizing pride in schools creates a safer environment for students, which would be the #1 priority for teachers, administrators, and the school board. Thank you for your time.
Naomi Flowers, followed by Taylor Randa, followed by Dawn Ballou.
Hello, member of the board and Superintendent Beeman. My name is Leo Moreira, and I'm a sophomore at Winter Springs High School. My friends who are present here have told you their stories and their takes on why we need to recognize pride in public schools, and now I will tell you mine. In these next 2 minutes, I will tell you about my personal experience of celebrating myself and others at school. Since a young age, I've always been very friendly with both girls and boys my age. Because of this, I was always getting new quote-unquote girlfriends throughout elementary and my early middle school years. This may sound completely normal to you, but since I can remember, I have always felt confused and silenced when it came to my sexuality. I've never felt comfortable when I was called a ladies' man, a simple term several young boys hear all the time. I also never felt comfortable with my so-called girlfriends because even as a middle schooler, I knew this wasn't truly me. It wasn't until my 7th grade that I really came to terms with who I am and who I love. To this day, I still remember my 7th grade civics teacher, one of the first adults in my life to make me feel truly safe and accepted no matter what. I opened up to her many times, but I couldn't exactly tell her my feelings for another student in her class. Had that student been a girl, I would have told her all about it. The following year, I felt comfortable enough to be open about my feelings in front of another teacher who made me feel loved and accepted, my 8th grade English teacher. In her class, I could talk to all my friends and feel supported no matter what. Fast forward to my freshman year, things took a turn. I started being talked about by some students and even felt scared at times to walk alone. I talked to a trusted adult at my school who made me feel protected and safe. I surrounded myself with many people who love me for who I am, and I truly think that these individuals will be my lifelong friends. This year, I'm able to celebrate my feelings with adults and students alike. I have an abundance of teachers and adults who I can be myself around. Every day, I'm excited to go to school and see my favorite teachers, one of those being my current English teacher who has made it abundantly clear that he will never judge me or think of me differently. I don't think twice about being open with him and would never want anyone to feel any differently in their own classes. I feel safe, comfortable, and protected by the adults that surround me at school. It's reasons such as these that the ability to recognize and celebrate queerness in school is imperative. Thank you for your time.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming us here today and providing the opportunity to share our vital perspectives as students. My name is Naomi Flowers, and I'm a senior at Winter Springs High School, imploring the school board and the SCPS community to protect LGBTQ+ students by embracing diverse forms of identity and expression under an intersectional lens, as well as by prioritizing inclusivity and an equitable educational environment. The United Nations urges the idea that the inclusion of LGBTQ+ people in educational settings is of paramount importance to leaving no one behind. The perpetual bullying and harassment of LGBTQ+ people in Seminole County schools, driven by deeply rooted stigma and biases, contributes to this sense of being left behind. As these students face intimidation, teasing, and obscenities, their educational environment evidently is worsened. We all have the responsibility of ensuring inclusive and equitable education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. Some actionable ways to do so include training teachers and staff to not use gendered language, such as ladies and gentlemen, and for school emails and documents to refer to parents' kids as their child rather than their daughter or son. Further, a continuation of the reform of the school dress code is vital in affirming the gender identity and expression of students by removing all gender discriminatory language and any other violations of Title IX. In an era of bills such as House Bill 1557, otherwise known as the Don't Say Gay bill, students across Florida are terrified of being stigmatized and isolated. Members of the LGBTQ+ community wish for more protection. There is a normalized culture of hostility towards gay people, particularly among male athletes, as hypermasculinization is encouraged and thus any perception of femininity in others is ridiculed or worse. While derogatory comments such as "that's gay" being directed towards anything seen as negative, to hate crimes such as physical violence or sexual assault of gay people are left rather undisciplined. Attempts at gender and sexuality expression are limited and oppressed. SCPS has a responsibility to educate our students. Class curriculums are insufficient in creating the leaders of tomorrow. We also need the humanity of our students to be prioritized as well. And to do so, we need better protection of the LGBTQ+ community. Its members and allies have the solutions. We have the right to an education free from violence and discrimination that promotes respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, and we must act now to ensure this. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, members of the school board and Superintendent Beeman. For the last few minutes, you heard my friends and fellow students discuss the importance of recognizing pride and creating a safer environment in schools. There is a reason why we are here today. Whether we are an ally or identify as part of the LGBTQ+ community, each and every one of us knows that recognizing pride is long past due. Haley has detailed to you the shocking suicide rates of LGBTQ+ youth and discouraging statistics on discrimination of LGBTQ+ people. Kierra, Zach, and Leo have given real accounts of students in Seminole County who would be directly impacted by the recognition of pride. Naomi described the desperate need for recognizing pride and possible ways to take action. Now I am here to appeal to you, members of the school board and Superintendent Beeman, as it is your responsibility to ensure the safety of students and act in a way that benefits us. The best way to uphold these duties is through recognizing pride in schools, which has been reiterated to you by the very students you swear to protect. For your generation, pride could be a political issue. For our generation, it's our reality. Whether you believe pride is right or wrong, good or bad, it's moot. For us, it just is, which is why it must be addressed by the school board. It is why I stand before you to implore you to listen to our pleas to protect us, our friends, and our peers. Recognizing pride in schools is recognizing that the times are changing and that we should change with them. It is recognizing that students are comfortable expressing who they are, and that should be encouraged, not put down. No longer should gay be a bad word. Therefore, on behalf of all the students who have spoken to you thus far, and the numerous others who support our cause, I urge you to recognize pride in the Seminole County School District. Thank you so much for your time.
Don Ballou, followed by Kenneth Bentley, followed by Catherine Maluda.
Thank you. Good evening. Lucky to have enough spicing this evening. I'm going to speak to you as a with my perspective as a parent and a former educator. I am the parent of 2 SCPS students, both of whom have gone all the way from kindergarten, one high schooler and now one middle schooler. And I'm here to express a couple of points of gratitude. To start, I did notice on the agenda that we'll be hearing about Black history in the superintendent's report. I'm excited and gratified to hear about all of the great things going on in our district regarding Black history. I do want to note that February should be simply a reminder or an anniversary, so to speak, because Black history is American history and should be included throughout our curriculum. And I hope that you consider that when you have the opportunity to update resources. Secondly, I'd like to thank you for upholding the appeals process last week regarding Brain Pop, which is inappropriate, and it's age appropriate and curriculum appropriate, and as a supplemental material. It's not necessary that people partake of it. It's not assigned, it's supplemental. It should be available to our students. So I thank you for upholding that. On that note, I want to also express, as we've heard here this evening, that our LGBTQ families and students have parental rights and students' rights just like those of other people. So I implore you as well to consider them, especially in light of the mental health needs, the specialized risk that we have found that these students have. And I want to say to my friends and my neighbors of the LGBTQ+ community that I see you, I value you, and I stand by you that you will have to advocate for your full participation in our schools. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Beeman, and also school board members, and I'm going to keep the thank yous rolling. I want to thank you on behalf of the barbershop conversation and Goldsboro Front Porch for last week what you did. You did something that was overdue, but the best thing about, even though it was overdue, it was a great time. You got Miss Ingrid Burden-Nathan while she was in her right mind. She could walk to Sanford Middle School, her family could come, everybody in her immediate family is still with us. So it was a time that she really got her flowers. And you gave flowers to the whole Sanford community, not just the Burden-Nathan family, but you gave flowers to everybody. And the timing was fantastic. You know I'm an advocate for Black history. Black history is every day. But since this has been designated Black History Month, the dedication, the news crews that came out, we stayed on the news about 3 or 4 days. Seminole County Public School got glorious. They got some glorious press after that because everybody just saw Seminole County Public Schools. The emails start rolling in, the phone calls from New York, Atlanta, New Orleans start rolling in, and they kept saying, they did that for Ingrid. Yeah, they did that for Ingrid. And it was unanimous. It was everybody sitting behind that diocese that said, we're going to name Building 2, Ingrid Burden-Nathan Building. So on behalf of the people I've already named and the people that you never meet, I want to say thank you with that because that was just great. And it was just some positive news for this district. Also, went to county commission meeting this morning. I know you're working with the county commissions in the city of Sanford with broadband. So thank you for that. We can't control Corona. We don't know what we have to do with these kids in the future. So we got to have broadband if they're sent home again. I tell everybody, you did the work with the laptops. You gave every child in this district a laptop. But if I have no broadband, I just got a laptop. Also, I want to make sure that you know that you have support from this community. Whether we come up here and we petition for different things, we still support you. You got support. Don't ever go home after one of these meetings thinking it's you against the world because it's not. You have support from this community. Just continue to have the conversation, continue to build relationships, and we'll continue to come and support you. One thing I've always told people about the Seminole County Public Schools, you can approach them. This is an approachable meeting. This is not a meeting you have to be fearful about, and you're not going to get blacklisted by coming. This is what it's about. This is open government, and I love it. Also, you know I'm an advocate for Black history, but just listen to me tonight. We need to look at Seminole County Black history. I was at a meeting last week, and the lady said, what's your name? I said, Bentley. She said, I heard that name somewhere. I said, well, it's a school named Bentley Elementary in Seminole County. She said, they named it after some black people. I said, last time I looked, we were black. A lot of people just don't even know in this district. They have no idea that Jackson Heights is named after an African-American family. Hamilton Elementary is named after an African-American family. They don't know about the Bookertown community. It's named after Booker T. Washington. They don't know about Midway. Midway got its name because it was the middle spot for cattlemen from Osteen and Sanford to meet together. So that's how they got their name, Midway. They don't know that Professor Crooms founded Crooms. They don't know that Goldsboro Elementary is named after the community of Goldsboro. Let's teach Seminole County history. It's a wealth of history out there, and you just think that people know, but they don't know. Once again, kids go to Hamilton Elementary and Bentley Elementary have no idea that the schools are named after black people. That's nobody's fault. We just got to teach it. Nobody's fault. We just got to teach it. So once again, thank you on behalf of the community. Always remember you got a friend in the community, and keep up the good work.
Catherine Maluda, followed by Dan Smith, followed by Kelly Shilson.
Hello, my name is Catherine Maluda, and my son is in kindergarten at Sable Point Elementary. There's a few items I'd like to go over with you today. My main concern is that my son has an individual educational plan, an IEP, and I would like to discuss the challenges that we've been facing within the school district. Parents have been saying at the school board meetings that when it comes to children with special needs, SCPS is failing. My son is struggling in 3 areas: math, English, and now behavior. It has been a struggle this year with no real improvement. Sable has multiple times turned my son's situation back on me. What I've heard is, what do you do when he has these issues at home? To where I respond, we don't typically have these issues at home, but we address them when we do. I've also been told, have you taken him to the pediatrician? My response, yes, he has had the Vanderbilt testing done last year, and then I was told maybe you should go have him tested again for the same test. This is too much deflection and CYA and not enough solutions. I understand it takes work from both the school and from us at home to help children be successful, but this is a very broken process in my opinion. Apparently my son had an FBA recently, which I found out because I asked. He's also a tier 3, and that's been implemented, which I was basically told means more one-on-one, but I have not seen a plan. And my son's guidance counselor is his behavior support. I'm very thankful that he has a teacher who's been supportive and advocating for him and giving him the extra attention that I know she doesn't have time for, but puts in the effort anyway. I have requested to be present in his class so I can see what's happening and understand the conditions better so I can implement more structure at home to help at school. Finally, this month, Sable is allowing parents to assist in the classroom. Well, a parent once a day. I know that multiple teachers have been requesting this, but parent involvement seems to be slow to implement in Seminole County. I recently found out via a parents' Facebook group that there is a tutor list available at Sable Point after a parent-teacher conference where I was told my kindergartner is not passing in those 2 areas. While reaching out, I also found out that the tutor list has not been successful for multiple parents because they are completely full. One tutor has over 500 accounts, and she does it for full-time herself. More and more kids are needing tutoring outside of our schools than ever before, and this should be very concerning for Seminole County. My daughter, who's a junior at Lake Brantley, was a typical student who progressed the way a majority of children do. She received a top-notch education, for which I'm grateful, which is what my son deserves as well. And there is a difference with how children with special needs need to be instructed, as I've learned with him. My son has the option of 2 speech-language pathologists, and both of them wear a mask during speech therapy. There is nothing anyone can say that would convince me that this is an effective way to help a child with speech and language challenges. When I was a child, I was also in speech therapy at Heathrow Elementary. My SLP showed me how they use their mouth to correctly pronounce words.
Ms. Maluda, are you almost finished?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We have seen little improvement with his speech, and my son goes for 60 minutes a week for speech and 30 minutes for language, only because his teacher pointed out that I am able to request more time. This did not come from the SLP themselves. I'm fully aware it's personal choice for someone to wear a mask, but it makes this position pointless. There's absolutely no point in paying someone to do a job that everyone knows is ineffective at best. Thank you. Hopefully we can make a difference moving forward.
Chair Paddock, School Board Member, Superintendent Beeman. My name is Dan Smith. I'm a resident of Longwood. I'm employed by Seminole County Public Schools as a teacher, and currently I am serving as president of the Seminole Education Association. Tonight, I would like to address some of the issues we're having with working conditions that our teachers are facing, and the plummeting morale in the schools. Now, you know that we have some of the best teachers around here in Seminole County. They're smart, dedicated teachers, big hearts, soulful of compassion, and they've stepped up to the numerous challenges that faced them over the last couple of years. And they discuss, collaborate, problem solve, and they work and they make things work even without a plan. And like many others who've been on the front lines, these past 2 years have taken a toll on them. Many have called me in tears, frustrated. They're near the end of their ropes. And not because of the workload, because often it's just they don't know what to do for their kids. They don't want to take a day. They don't know what to do for their children. Now, unfortunately for Seminole's children, many of these temporary teachers are at the end of their ropes, and the result in they're leaving. They're leaving teaching, they're leaving Seminole County, and they're leaving Seminole students. And this is bad news for the kids, but it's good news because yous can fix this relatively easily. Our teachers are not really leaving by the hundreds because of the pay, although many are, okay? They're doing it mainly because they just feel they don't get respect in the workplace. They're just being used as workhorses, okay? First, in one of the items we have is we have a tested evaluation system that is based on feedback. It's been around almost since, ever since the Student Success Act. And when implemented with fidelity, the efficacy of the model is going to show up in the teacher's instruction and it's going to show up in the student's learning. But that's only if it's done with fidelity. Okay, we can't cut corners with a tested program and expect it to work the way it's anticipated. So it may surprise you to learn that many of the teachers who do call, when they get their evaluations or throughout there, they get zero positive feedback. They get nothing but what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, you didn't do this. And that gets taxing on the teachers after a while, and that's an easy fix. If they follow the model in the program, they could put in some positive as well. Now, when we're taking a look at these, the feedback-based model, if it is used well as it was for the Student Success purposes, it's going to make better teaching and it's going to make better learning in there as well, okay? And it was put there in the beginning really for the simple purposes of being a shield for the students when Governor Scott had put that into place. It wasn't intended to be a sword against the teachers. Additionally, we have an increasing discipline problem that's been rising over the last couple of years, and that's inevitable. I mean, COVID's taking its toll on everybody, and our little guys are really, they're getting in the face worse than anybody else. They're being pulled in 100 different directions, okay? So I do applaud the district for wading into the restorative practices the last couple of years. It is a very good alternative way to correct the negative behaviors. And I was somewhat familiar with it almost 30 years ago. A version of it was just called Circles at that time. When I was teaching in New York, the Borough of Queens Superintendency put a model in there as well into some problems. At that time, it was really done because most of the punishment-based discipline, as you know now, was very, very out of control, considering we had a minority number of our students of color, double the numbers we're getting disciplined. And we were going to look at it as cultural ignorance and put that in. But it did work. Even in the first year, second year, it did reduce a lot of the behaviors. And this is the middle schools that they'd used it in. But one of the findings they had is that it doesn't work when it comes to repetitive, violent, and threatening behaviors. Maybe it's worth a try the first time, but we do have some students who are getting into frequent conflicts, frequent fights, and they're out for 5 minutes and they're back in the classroom. You're not doing the students any favors by putting them back in there because they're going into a place that is going to be conflict for them anyway. So when we go through these, just like the Marzano model, it's important that we follow it, that we follow the fidelity of the model and not just pick and choose the pieces that we have. And it can really work. The other part about the restorative practices, as you know very well, it takes about 2 to 3 times as much time to correct the student's behavior as the punitive model. But my goodness, it's worth it. It really, really is worth it. Now, it's very tempting to cut corners in this situation because you don't have the time. Nobody has the time. But if that system is going to be used, okay, it's got to be followed. It has to be followed fully. They can't just keep getting sent back in, all right? Now, our teachers are being assaulted in numbers higher than I've experienced in 29 years that I've been working, and it's very difficult to imagine how it feels to have it. Your first reaction is you want to quit, and then eventually you're not the same teacher as you were before. I mean, I've been assaulted twice, once actually, because I probably had it coming the first time. But otherwise, it really does make a difference. So please consider that when you put it back in. Statute 103.32, as you're aware, does give the authority of controlling the students to the teacher. And the teachers do have the right to have disobedient, disrespectful, violent, and harmful students removed from their classroom for a minimum of 5 days. Our teachers don't want this. They want to keep the kids in there because none of the removing is in the best interest. But we've got to find a way to, besides putting them back in there and getting them the help they need in order to do this, okay? The Seminole teachers, if you treat them with respect and you treat them well, they're not going to leave. And we've had 300, close to 300 teachers resign. I'm sorry, my mistake. 220 teachers resign, which is under 5% of our unit. And we have about only two-thirds of the amount coming in that we had before. So let's take care of the ones that we have here so we don't have any more shortages. Thank you for giving me the extra 10 seconds.
Kelly Shilson, followed by Nina Sandberg, followed by Jen Christine.
Sorry. Hello, board members and Superintendent Beeman. Just want to say I'm up here every week because I love this community. I love these schools. I put both of my kids through it, and I'm saddened by a lot of what I'm seeing. So I'm probably not going to be as nice as my sister because now for me it's personal. Wanted. Janitor, sensitivity to garbage and dirt not important. If you prefer not to collect the trash or wash the floor, it's perfectly fine. We'll be happy to pay you just to look at it. The taxpayers will never know the difference. Does that sound just a little ridiculous? Here, let's try this one. Wanted, speech therapist. It doesn't really matter if you make any progress at all with the children in your charge. The important thing is that you collect a government salary. These kids with special needs will never amount to anything anyway, so what difference would it possibly make if they can see your mouth move or hear what you say when you are helping them? The parents that are paying attention are pulling their children out of this once unparalleled school system, and the money that you rely on will be following them. The superb teachers that make this community and school system what it is will soon be looking for a place that is more aligned with virtue than signaling, and actual justice over arbitrary justice. Socialism and Marxism philosophy has failed every single place it has been implemented, every single time. It is truly a mystery why the presumed erudite repeatedly traveled down this road to Hades. It is the wrong road, and anyone with 2 neurons to rub together knows it. You see, this fight just got personal. My nephew is now being affected by this lack of leadership and expectations of excellence. As my sister stated earlier, the many examples of how SCPS is failing her student and all our students. What she didn't say is he struggles every day. She gets reports every day. Nothing is being done, and she finds out all the way through February that his speech therapist, this young child who's probably in her mid-20s, is not only wearing a mask but a plexiglass. How can he possibly learn and improve? So now he's failing in math, now he's failing in language, and now it's going on to behavior. We're talking kindergarten. So this has to change. It is not too much to tell your principals that a minimum, that has to change. They need to stop handing out masks to children on their way into school who are not asking for one. They need to remove all social distancing signs. They need to remove all mask signs. They need to stop implementing social distancing while having an emergency drill today at Sable. So let's make sure we're 6 feet apart as the building is burning. I mean, what are we telling our kids? Encourage all volunteers back on campus, because that is still not happening and parents are still not really allowed back on campus. We have such a mixed message at all our schools, and it's 100% fault of this board and superintendent.
Ms. Shelson, are you almost finished? Thank you.
I'm Nina Sandberg. I represent the group Americans for Patriotic Education, formerly known as Choose to Refuse Common Core. SCPS needs to stop doing sexual and political indoctrination on my children immediately. SCPS is supposed to be in the business of education and not indoctrination. SCPS needs to stop promoting and glamorizing any sexual activity of any kind to my children. My children are below the age of sexual consent and are not supposed to be having sex or thinking about sex. Preventing bullying of LGBTQ persons is different than promoting sexual activity. Know the difference. SCPS needs to stop forcing partisan political propaganda for the extreme radical Marxist communist identity politics wing of the Democrat Party down my children's throats. SCPS needs to stop teaching my children to judge people by their immutable characteristics. SCPS needs to teach my children to judge people by the content of their character instead. SCPS is forbidden for teaching my children critical race theory under any of its many names, the 1619 Project, BLM, and Antifa propaganda, and other assorted identity politics propaganda filth. SCPS needs to start following the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. and Alveda King again, and SCPS needs to get off this radical extremist identity politics Marxist communist kick. You cannot fix racism, bigotry, prejudice, sexism, discrimination, and hate by teaching new versions of racism, bigotry, prejudice, sexism, discrimination, and hate, and by simply changing the targets for that hate. Also, SCPS cannot label children as oppressors and the oppressed and as good or bad based on their immutable characteristics. SCPS cannot teach children that they are somehow inherently responsible for historic wrongs that were done by dead people who just happen to have the same immutable characteristics and who they never knew or had anything to do with. SCPS needs to teach a well-rounded and complete factual, nonpartisan history, civics, and geography curriculum instead of partisan political propaganda. During Common Core, SCPS removed massive amounts of necessary content from its social studies curriculum in order to do nothing but teach to the standardized test for years. Since this material was not on the standardized test, it was not taught to our children. SCPS deleted instruction about Black history, the Civil Rights Movement, Holocaust history, and the atrocities done by Hitler, Stalin, and other despots. SCPS did not even teach the American Revolution and the Civil War adequately. My daughter received only half of the social studies instruction from her SCPS elementary school that I received from my OCPS elementary school when I was a child. SCPS has not taught my own children the Black history that I learned from OCPS. This tells me that Mr. Bentley's complaint is a valid complaint. Mr. Bentley told you that he does not want CRT either. Everyone wants Black history instruction, but we want you to do it in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. and not in the spirit of the terrorist group called Black Lives Matter. Just so you know, Mr. Bentley enjoys bipartisan and multiracial support from almost all of the parents for his crusade to increase Black history instruction. No one is against this. We support him. What we are against is race baiting, identity politics, hate mongering, garbage being pushed by radical.
Hello, Mr. Sandberg.
6 minutes.
Pardon me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Madam Chair, I'd like to point out that according to our rules, the criteria for someone being designated as a representative of the group is that they are to represent a group that is for or against a proposition which is defined in our policy 169 as
Americans for Patriotic Education is for or against. Americans for Patriotic Education is.
Ms. Sandberg, please let him.
Can I finish, please? What we are against is the race-baiting, identity politics, hate-mongering garbage being pushed by radical extremists, Marxists, communists,
I do not believe that Sandberg needs to
Ms. Sandberg, if you would just let him finish his comment.
My comment is that I have not heard anything that Ms. Sandberg has said that relates to a proposition, which is an item before the board for a vote, which is a criteria for designating someone as a group
All right, I'm just
representative. which
supporting
allows
Black
additional-
history education that Mr. Bentley is pushing. Why is this a problem? Why is it a problem for me to support Mr. Bentley in having more Black history education? I'm just wondering why. Do you have a problem with that?
Ms. Sandberg, it's inappropriate to ask board members direct questions. If you have a comment, please wrap it up. I believe
All
that
right,
you've
please
expired
let me
your 3
finish.
minutes.
What we are against is the race-baiting, identity politics, hate-mongering garbage being pushed by radical extremists, Marxist, communist, anarchist, terrorist groups, and leftist college professors. Look at what college kids were doing during the pandemic if they were radicalized by their professors and terror groups. They went out and rioted, looted, destroyed property, set buildings on fire, lit explosives, harassed and bullied citizens, assaulted people, and murdered people. They attacked police officers. For a good time, they went out at night and destroyed statues. They perpetuate the cancel culture of hate and division. We don't want our kids turning into those college kids. SCPS needs to purchase quality, nonpartisan, non-political textbooks for all of the academic subjects that follow Florida state standards for skills, content, and subject matter. My children have no math or science textbooks this year. SCPS should not be purchasing politically biased and slanted supplemental materials when SCPS has not even purchased regular textbooks for the academic subjects first. You may purchase paper textbooks, newspaper textbooks, or online textbooks, but start purchasing textbooks. And please put all of the skills, content, and subject matter that you removed during Common Core back. You even remove necessary skills such as phonics, word construction, spelling, grammar, parts of speech, etc. Your removal of cursive writing is the least of your worries. Education and not indoctrination.
Jen Christine, followed by Sandy Stenoff, followed by Jessica Tillman.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Christine Devine, and I'm a veteran Seminole County public school teacher who left teaching last May. I'm here to discuss the Don't Say Gay bill currently being proposed in the current legislative session and to ask you to advocate for your LGBTQ+ students at both a local and legislative level. Legislatively, I ask that you write letters and call your legislators. Let them know that all students and all families matter. 2 dads or 2 moms aren't gay parents, they're parents. And their families should be discussed and celebrated just as other families in this district are. How can we tell a 4th grader who has 2 dads that discussing people like that child's parents is an inappropriate topic at school? What are teachers supposed to do for assignments such as family trees or autobiographies? Ignore the child's family, not discuss their project because 2 dads are involved? That's not only absurd, it's cruel. Most disturbing is the new language for the proposed bill that would require teachers to out their students. I cannot stress to you how if this bill becomes law, more LGBTQ+ students will die from suicide, and that is not being overdramatic. The suicide rate for the LGBTQ+ community is higher than any other group. And part of the reason for this is because so many of those students feel unloved and rejected by their families after coming out. There are situations where it's not safe for a child to come out to their parent as gay, bi, transgender. As a theater educator, I saw firsthand how devastated students were because they felt rejected by their parents. I have personally called both the suicide and abuse hotlines more times than I can count. To force a teacher to out a student not only destroys that teacher's relationship with that student, but it strips the student of a safe space where they can feel free to just be themselves, judgment-free, and it strips them of their right to have a very personal conversation with their parents. The Supreme Court has held that students do have individual rights, and these rights aren't stripped as they cross the threshold onto school property. And what is right, or what is more important than the right of individual autonomy? The right to just let a student be themselves. Don't just say you support the LGBTQ+ students, show them. Show them SCPS cares by writing our legislators condemning this proposed bill. And please show them that they matter by officially recognizing Pride Month. Both of those actions are completely within your purview as a school board. For those concerned with indoctrination, the law is clear. Courts have held that exposure is not indoctrination. In Parker v. Hurley, the U.S. First DCA held public schools are not obligated to shield individual students from ideas which are potentially religiously offensive. particularly when the school imposes no requirement that the student agree or affirm those ideas. So please, I implore you, support all of your students, write to the legislators, recognize Pride Month, and show, don't just say, that all students matter. Thank you.
Sandy Stenoff, followed by Jessica Tillman, followed by Shiloh Charles. Sandy Stenoff.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Thank you for not taking the bait on CRT. Most of us know that there are no K-12 schools anywhere teaching CRT. At the University of Mississippi School of Law, Law 743, Critical Race Theory is a third-year graduate law class teaching a bird's-eye view of the legal system, a framework for understanding the law, and its impact on racial minorities. CRT is not taught in SCPS or indeed in any K-12 school anywhere. I'd like to share something from a lifelong retired educator, distinguished professor of education, senior university scholar at the University of Illinois at Chicago, William Ayers. Quote, "Teachers who believe in freedom acknowledge the incalculable value of every student, recognize implicitly or explicitly that the fullest development of each individual is the necessary condition for the full development of all, and conversely, that the fullest development of all is the condition for the full development of each. Their elemental lesson, whatever else they teach, is that you have every right to be here in this classroom, in this school and larger society, to be recognized and understood, and that you need no one's permission to interrogate the world. We see before our eyes a sustained and relentless attack on democracy in real time, an attack with multiple dimensions and tactics and venues, but make no mistake, the struggle is not over this book or that idea or theory. The fundamental fight is for the right to think at all, which is in dispute." End quote. My daughter is now a senior, and in preparation for the life ahead of her, I am standing in defense of teaching our nation's history in its entirety, because she deserves a full, rich education, which also includes the reading and teaching of complex, challenging, and meaningful literature, which teaches empathy by helping young people to understand the full human experience from different perspectives. A watered-down, comfortable curriculum would only dilute the strength of our district's reputation and the value of a diploma from SCPS. As our elected school board, each sworn to serve our public schools, you must grapple with the decision about the extent to which you are prepared to either stand with Superintendent Beeman and Seminole County teachers to defend this ideal or forsake it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Tillman. I am a Longwood resident. The overwhelming idea that we have heard tonight is that students overall do not feel supported, period. Whether they're LGBTQ, African American, or just a regular student, a special needs student, all of these students do not feel supported. Our teachers are leaving this district in a massive amount. Nobody feels connected to the district office. Nobody feels connected to the administrators. There is such a disconnect between the district office, administration, teachers, students, and parents alike. This district needs to get it together and support all students. I'm not saying that that means that we need to celebrate Pride Month, but we do need to support these students with the non-harassment, non-discrimination policies we already have in place. How are we supposed to support our students if they're being wrangled like cattle in a cafeteria or in a gym all day long with no instruction, and then being forced to take a test on things that they're not being taught? How can we continue this? Indian Trails Middle School is in crisis mode, as I'm sure many other schools in the district are. What are we doing to fix this? I am so glad that I pulled my children out of this district this year. I would not want my daughter in a middle school that sees fights every day, that is still showing distancing signs, that is still putting mask signs up, when we need blanket instruction from the superintendent to say these mask signs need to go. At Indian Trails Middle School today, there was a sign on the office door that said that if you were here to drop your student's lunch off or a water bottle, then you can't come in. So my answer to that is sign your child out, give them their lunch, and send them back to class. This is getting ridiculous. The procedures for COVID need to end. The district needs to get it together and support all students. We agree with Mr. Bentley. We need a full American history, blended, where everyone is represented, not just one gender, not just one race. We're all one community, and we need to be supported. When I was doing research on the superintendent issue, I did dive very deep into Seminole County history, and it was very eye-opening. We need to teach our students proper education. Thank you.
Shiloh Charles, followed by Joy Stricker, followed by Rebecca Newman.
Hi guys, I'm Shiloh Charles from Winter Springs. I want to talk to you guys. I'm going to start positive and just say that I took my rising 6th grade daughter to curriculum night at Indian Trails Middle School, and she was so excited. She's so excited. They have such a great culinary program, an art program, creative writing. So she's filling out her thing. She's so excited. She can't even stop talking about it. And she's at Leah right now, so she just had the physics bus, and she loved it. Like, it was so, I just really, it touched me. She was in love with it, okay? It was awesome. But I don't want to cry because I'm so upset about this, but I can't send her next year to middle school. I'm going to have to pull her out and put her in private school, or I'm going to have to homeschool her. And I love this district. We moved here for this district. Bought a house. We moved away from our family and our friends. I uprooted my 3 children, my son right before high school, to come here. And I've been going and volunteering because the principal at Indian Trails Middle School and their PTA, they got together and they got like a phone tree going for volunteers because they are in triage mode. Triage. They have 4 classes at a time for every period, sitting in the cafeteria, the media center, in the gym, and they have 1 teacher watching them, babysitting them. They're not doing work, they're on their phone, they're on TikTok. We don't have enough subs, so I applied to sub and all my stuff's in, so I'm just waiting on approval, and I'm so excited, and I want to be there and help out in any way I can. But we have to make that process a little bit easier for people to sub, and it's about $140 that we have to pay out of our pocket. And you make, what, $80 a day subbing? Some people can't afford that, and they want to help out, and they don't know the process. And I don't like to present a problem without a solution because that's not really helpful. You guys have a really hard job, and I know that, right? So what if we had like a fair day where we do the fingerprinting, they can pick up their drug test kit, all at the office, and we can help them fill out the paperwork, or we can have actual physical papers. Some people aren't really good with the computers. Older people, like retired people, teachers, and they want to help. Let's make it easier for them. I'm willing, I'll come help, whatever it takes. But I can't look at hundreds of students not learning every day, all year. And a lot of it is the teachers aren't supported. We had a contract that was agreed on with our teachers for their pay. Well, if they're not vaccinated, they have to use their own personal time and sick leave when they're forced to quarantine. And what do you get, 4 days a year as a teacher? And you have to take that and you don't get to take a vacation with your family because of your personal medical choice? That's disgusting. It's just a problem. So the solution is we need to make it easier for subs to get in to help our teachers, stop driving our teachers away, and support them. I'm almost done, yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm like really sad to hear all these panels sit up here and talk about how great our kids are doing when I'm there helping and I'm seeing the kids not learn. And I had to help give a test to 3 honors history classes, okay? That's like 75 kids, right? Who were devastated. They said, we haven't had a teacher in 2 weeks. Their teacher quit, and they don't have a sub, not a permanent sub, not a sub. They're sitting in the cafeteria or in the gym, just sitting on the bleachers. So it doesn't matter what it is we disagree with, what our kids are learning or not learning. They're not learning when they're being babysat. And we're gonna just keep driving our teachers away. Thank you.
My name is Joy Stricker. I live in Longwood. Do you like Harry Potter? I like Harry Potter. One of my favorite quotes is when Dumbledore says to Harry, "It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but just as much to stand up to your friends." I am sure that my friends will not agree with what I am about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I believe that everybody should have the right to speak their own truth, as some ladies on your equity committee like to say. I think Sarita is qualified to be our superintendent. I also think that she is doing a good job. But fear not, comrades, because like Captain John Paul Jones said in 1779, I have not yet begun to fight. Although I believe that Sarita is doing a good job as our new superintendent, I also believe that she hangs around with a pretty rough crowd. Between the previous superintendent and the current school board, laws were broken during the superintendent search process last year. Robert's Rules of Order were broken. Sunshine laws were broken. Most disturbing, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was violated. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." When I look at Sarita, I think of the words lawyer, mother, and wife before I think of the word black. In conclusion, I am glad that Sarita is my daughter's superintendent. I'm glad Amy is chair, and I am glad Abby is vice chair, but I am positively giddy that midterm elections are this year so that the citizens of Seminole County can join together in unity and fix this school system by voting out those elected officials in this room who stand upon platforms of corruption, illegality, and blatant racism against highly qualified individuals who would have done an amazing job as superintendent but never got the chance because they looked like me. One final thought. Equity in favor of blacks and racism against whites are just 2 sides of the same coin. Personally, I want nothing to do with this flawed currency. So why is this monetary system so prevalent in Seminole County schools? Thank you.
Rebecca Newman, followed by Sarah Riley, followed by Cheryl Bryant.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Newman. I'm from Oviedo, and I'm going to admit that I'm a college professor, and I'm doing it wrong because I haven't radicalized anybody. We haven't taken my students to protests, and as far as I know, we haven't done any domestic terrorism. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about and to thank you for doing the right thing last week by unanimously refusing to marginalize and erase our LGBTQ students and students of color by voting against the Brain Pop appeal. The complainant was so lucky to have the privilege, time, and money to be able to go through the appeal process and to put her bias and bigotry on potentially thousands of other students and parents. Thank you for trusting that our teachers know how to do their jobs and provide appropriate resources for our students. But our students still need your help. The Don't Say Gay bill, House Bill 1557, and its Senate companion piece, SB 1834, are marching through the Florida legislature despite objections from experts, including Florida teachers, counselors, physicians, lawyers, and others concerned for the psychological welfare and mental health of LGBTQ students. The statistics for these students can be grim. Multiple national surveys and the CDC concluded that gay and bisexual youth are almost 4 times as likely to have attempted suicide as their straight peers. And unfortunately, we are in a politically divisive time. but don't let the last safe space for LGBTQ students, schools, disappear. This Don't Say Gay bill is an abusive hate bill, and it's harmful to students. School board, you can do more. Most of this board endorsed our local state reps, Scott Plankin, David Smith, and Jason Broder. I've called them all many times about many things. Last year, when Jason Broder tried to kill Bright Future scholarships, I reached out to him, but he refused to take my call. But you, school board members, can use your position and relationships to tell them that the right thing to do for our students is to vote no on the hateful, hurtful, Don't Say Gay bill. I have heard you encourage us, audience members, to call our legislators regarding bad bills before, and now I'm asking you to do the same. Pick up the phone, use your voice and influence, get our legislators to do the right thing for these kids. Ask them to support all students and vote no on the Don't Say Gay bill. Thank you.
Good evening. I've been watching the board meetings online, and it is shocking to me that people are still arguing over the issue of who our superintendent is. I don't believe we would be in this situation now if the board would have hired the other candidate, a white male, the status quo candidate. Mrs. Beeman's adversaries continually mention her lack of teaching experience as the reason she is not qualified for the position. They are incorrectly assuming that teaching experience is a job requirement. Since March of 1992, when the board last approved the job description of the superintendent, educational or teaching experience has not been a requirement or even listed in the preferred category. While Ms. Beeman has not been a teacher in a K-12 classroom, she has been a teacher in numerous other aspects. She helped coach and teach the Seminole High School debate team, the mock trial team, provided professional development to the principals and leaders of SCPS, and she has been a presenter to the Lyman High School students enrolled in the Academy of Teaching, Learning, and Leading on the topics of educational law that impact teachers, students, and curricula. I would even say that she has more of an overall knowledge of education than most because she has seen education from the district level down and not just from the individual school or subject level. Ms. Beeman has children currently in SCPS. She knows that any decision she makes will not only affect our children, but hers as well. This is one of the many reasons why I trust and support Mrs. Beeman. Another claim that Mrs. Beeman is that Mrs. Beeman was pushed through the rounds of interviews by certain members of the search committee due to an influence of Dr. Griffin. 21 out of 21 members of the search committee voted for Ms. Beeman, so every single member of the search committee was pressured to vote one way. That is almost statistically impossible. A lawsuit that was filed after Ms. Beeman was selected, trying to get a court to stop SCPS from hiring her, failed. Brevard County Judge Michelle Naberhaus said that those who sought it failed to meet the legal standard needed for her to impose an injunction. If it didn't meet the requirements then, it doesn't meet them now. I am a Seminole County parent, unlike many of those who have chosen to speak at these meetings, and I have also been in education for 20 years. So I understand the importance of teaching experience. Only one of the board members has any teaching experience, and the community has elected them to the school board. The school board makes countless decisions that affect a school district, and the community has said that they do not need to have teaching experience to be qualified to do that. This seems to be a case of Mrs. Beeman's opponents using anything they can as an excuse because of a personal bias they have against her. After Mrs. Beeman was elected superintendent, Mrs. Sanchez was quoted as saying, "We just need to heal. We have such division in the county right now. How are we healing if we are still arguing over this?" Mrs. Sanchez also said that she was confident Ms. Beeman would do well in her new post. I believe Sarita has a challenge ahead of her. She's going to push herself even more. She's going to make it. We need to move on as a school district and focus on what we are all here for, the students. We need to let this go. Ms. Beeman hasn't even had a chance to prove herself. She needs to be given a chance. She deserves to be given a chance.
Cheryl Bryant is our last speaker of the night.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Bryant, and I live in Lake Mary. Just have some questions. I'm kind of all over the board with some of the presentations here tonight. I wonder why the teachers are quitting. Why are they quitting? What's going on? Why is the district failing to retain this talent? Why are our Seminole County children in some schools spending all day in the media center, in the gymnasium, and in the lunchroom? Why are these children being failed? They're being failed. Why are teachers being punished financially for being unjabbed when we need them the most? We love our teachers. It's just unbelievable at this time, too, that there are so many roadblocks for parents to be able to get into the schools and help at this point when it's so desperately needed. Also, I wanted to speak to the brain pop has come up a couple of times tonight, and it actually is being assigned. If you would like to know what teacher is assigning it, we can make that available to you. But brain pop is being assigned. That is absolutely not true. Also, it was interesting that CRT keeps coming up here tonight. And we're not going to be gaslit any longer. People can stand up here and say that it's not happening. And yes, CRT, the theory as it was taught in law schools, is not being taught to our third graders, no. But the praxis, it's being done on our children. The praxis is being done on our children. So we can use all these shenanigans and all this sleight of hand to talk about CRT, but it's in our schools. For example, this book right here is written by one of the crown princes of CRT, Ibram X. Kendi, and it was promoted at the Equity Committee. My understanding that is being taught to the children. This is a horrible book. It's got all kinds of crap in it. It's got all kinds of lies in it, and it has a horrible approach to race in it. It basically throws out a lot of the advances of the civil rights movement. And this is also available online in our schools, along with a whole other list of crap. So we're not going to be gaslit. We know that it's there. So people can call it whatever they want, but it is CRT. And our children should not be, and it's not that things shouldn't be available to children, that we should ban books, blah, blah, blah. There's all this talk about that. But we choose all the time what we make available to our children, what's appropriate, what's age appropriate, what content is appropriate. Not every book can be on the list of things that are taught.
Ms. Bryant, are you almost finished?
I am all finished. Thank you all, and God bless you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your hard work, and we love our teachers and our children.
Okay, school board members. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation for the consent agenda?
Yes, that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any discussion? Any opposed, say aye. Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation on student discipline hearings?
Yes, that the school board of Seminole County approve the student disciplinary recommendations from January 31, 2022 and February 7, 2022.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposition, say aye. Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have a report?
Yes, Chairman, I do. My report is included in the board book and includes the Black History Month activities. Those are read-only items, but I did also want to give you an update in regards to our last work session regarding committees for our safety and security committees throughout the county. The plan is to utilize the geographic feeder clusters that we already have as the core of moving forward on those committees for the individual areas throughout. So we will start with those groupings of schools. The parents, the community members, the teachers and administrators of the committee will be made up based on the cluster arrangement. We will then provide the information to have that initial meeting, which will then move forward with a meeting, not a town hall, but where a more community-based meeting where we can answer questions and so forth based on that regional pattern. before the end of the school year. Now, the initial thought is to have the discussion with our principals at the superintendent seminar on Thursday to get the formation moving forward, and then we will come forward with proposed dates for all of the clusters. And we're looking at our regular 7 clusters that are each named for its member high school. So Hagerty Oviedo, Lake Brantley, Lake Howell, Lake Mary, Lyman, Seminole Crooms, and Winter Springs. So that is the plan moving forward.
Thank you. Okay, board committee updates. Member Almond?
So, Chair Paddock, if we put these items on hold or report on hold, can you make it to some of the game for your daughter?
No, it's over.
It's over?
They won.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. We had a lot of activity, which was a nice change. I'll just name a few items. Congratulations to Stenstrom Elementary for the way they rolled out their micro society. That was an outstanding morning at their school last week. And I also went to Lara Elementary. They did something called Fairy Doors, and it was a partnership with Winter Springs High School. The high school students made the little fairy doors, told a story, and then the kids had questions based on Florida state standards, and really good questions, a lot of interaction, so I really enjoyed visiting there. And congratulations to Seminole State College for their Dream Gala great event. And that concludes my report.
Calderon?
The only committee meeting that I represented this board on was the SHAC committee meeting, and as soon as they give me the handouts and PowerPoints from that session, I will again share it with you. But the highlights of the meeting were Richard Miles represented Seminole County Public Schools in our annual report to the state of Florida with the health of Seminole County. And also I talked to Donna Walsh, and if you remember in years past, they used to have the Students Against Tobacco Use grant that we no longer are a recipient of that, but there is other nonprofits that are coming in that are going to be making recommendations to us. The piece of it that I liked was perhaps some free online training that we could use for those students who were in need of seeing that. And I'll try to save some of the events too for the rest of the board, but a shout out for the Foundation's annual kickball tournament, and congratulations to Lake Howell High School for winning that. Thank you to Minnie Cardona and her entire team for a phenomenal World Language Festival. Thank you to our fine arts teachers for a great elementary music festival. I mean, I think that could be a great fundraiser. I know I'd pay any amount of money to go and see that excellent talent. The academic tournament, congratulations to all the high schools who participated and our teaching and learning department for putting it together. But again, congratulations to Lake Howell High School for winning it this year. But it was great to see all the kids loving the academics and shining, and I know it's a very humbling experience for all of us to attend, listening to the questions and perhaps not knowing as many answers as the students do. Seminole High School held their voter registration that I got to participate with Chris Anderson, and I'll leave the rest for my other fellow school board members.
Vice Chair Sanchez?
So much going on, so many wonderful things, and also, of course, teacher shortages everywhere with the pandemic, as well as bus drivers, you name it, any staffing, including custodians. It's pretty sad, but one of the meetings was my Central Florida School Board Coalition meeting, and we did that one virtually this time. We're skipping the month of March, and because of spring break, and then we'll have it in April. But we did talk a lot about the bills, legislators, and I really need everybody to go online, look at all the different bills, speak to the Florida Department of Education, speak to your legislators. Also, the fingerprinting, that is not just something that we do, it's actually every county that does that, and so there is a bill out there that's actually trying to combine everybody, so everybody doesn't have to get fingerprinted at 6 different areas, and they can all use one database. So I'm hoping that that bill does make it through, but every day, every minute, the bills change constantly. They amend them, they add different things to them, they die in subcommittees and so on and so forth. So check out all the different bills. You know, one thing that strikes me, and being a teacher for God knows how many years, like all of us, but history, social studies, I'm going to say it again. Social studies book in elementary school from the state, now remember, our books are not adopted by us. We get money from the state gives us some money, and that's when we can buy books. That's how it goes. That's not something we have control over. The money comes from them, then we get to do it. They held it off last year, they held it off the year before. But let me tell you something, the history book in elementary school is from 2001. Now, I will tell you that Dr. Sean Gard-Harold and his phenomenal team worked really hard to add wonderful things to our program, which I really, truly appreciate, as well as so many teachers, and with the weekly readers and all the current events that they did. But speak to your legislators about that. Speak to them about the money that we're not getting for our veteran teachers, those bills that we need. These are things that I need you all to do, not just us, but everybody. We have 3 weeks left of the legislation session, March 11th. The clock is ticking. And I don't want to lose any more teachers. I don't want to lose any more staff. None of us do. But I also want to mention that, you know, we need more funding for all of our teachers. And that money comes federally to the state, to us. Look at the Sunshine State standards. The standards come from them as well. Please check out the P3 app. Thank you for sharing all that information about that. I also want to mention there is millions of dollars of scholarship money every year that is not being used. Please go onto scholarships.com or just Google, how do I include milk in my life? I can't begin to tell you how much money is out there for our seniors or juniors. You can even start in your sophomore year by getting scholarships. So you can have for any VOTEC or any career path that you choose, as well as college. So check those out, share them in your community, because they're absolutely huge. I just need everybody to, you know, we're all working together. A lot of you had some great ideas, some wonderful things that you all said, and all of us working together is the way it's going to be to make it us all move forward, and us being the leading county and a representation of what other counties should look like as well. Thank you.
Member Kraus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We attended the Daughters of American Revolution, the Youth Awards, and that was quite a patriotic ceremony. I was happy to be a part of that. Again, I was going to mention Lake Howell is shining. They are coming in first in so many competitions, and I am so incredibly proud. The academic tournament, Lake Howell was tops. World languages, Lake Howell was the top senior level. Not only there's some of their sports teams and so forth, we saw a lot of sports tonight, but we're just very, very proud, and they're shining, all of our students. I participated in the Lake Howell High School accreditation process, which was very, very interesting. And tomorrow I will be going for voter registration with the supervisor of elections at Lake Howell. They haven't done this in 4 years, so I'm excited to do that. I can't let this night go without speaking about some of the awful legislation that I'm seeing personally. That Bill 1557 is dangerous for our students. I urge you, board members, fellow board members, to please make a phone call to your contacts. I have already called. I will call again. And that's it for me. Look forward to seeing you March 8th at our next meeting. Thank you.
Today, Daryl Strawberry we reached out to one of our community members, Andy Searles, and requested for time in front of some of our students, and he spent about an hour at Lyman, Lake Mary, and Seminole High School, and I got to attend Lake Mary. I know Karen attended Lyman, and it was such an impactful conversation where he talked about his experience. His biggest regret was not listening to his mother. I thought that was pretty awesome, but it was, he talked about putting your phones away and being present and really listening and being engaged, and it was a really great experience for our young men of excellence, young men, women of excellence, and some of the other groups that were invited into the room. So I was very grateful to be invited into that as well. I had a parent reach out to me and shared information where a teacher was looking for a new pair of sneakers for one of her students. She recognized that maybe he was going through a situation and didn't have a nice pair of sneakers, and we connected her with Grow. And Colleen reached out to me afterwards and said, thank you for that, and identified that some of our schools still aren't familiar with Grow. And so she was working through Assistant Superintendent Rice to get the information out. But I wanted to share with you that just this year so far, they have given 673 pairs of shoes to our students. It's such a great organization in our community that's a great partner. I delivered my Teacher of the Year bags to the teachers that couldn't make it and the Arts Alive checks, and that was it was wonderful to see everyone in the schools. The science fair winners, that was just awesome to be there, and wow, the girl power of the winners. We're seeing a lot of girls in science, and that is just phenomenal. I love it. Thank you to all of our JET students in that program who just brought smiles to so many people's faces on Valentine's Day by sharing balloons and chocolates. I came in and got to meet them, and they were just so happy, and it just made my day. I just want to wish a good luck to all the spring sports teams that are starting their seasons. Many of them started today. They all shine, whether they win or lose. Great programs. Thank you to our coaches. Many of them face personal adversaries and still come to work and motivate our kids. And it's just one of the things that Daryl said today was, your parents are impactful, yes, but teachers and your coaches make the biggest impact because they are with you more than you are with your parents. This is such a formative time. So thank you, coaches and teachers. You are recognized. We appreciate you. And that's all for my report. And that's all. This meeting is adjourned.